Custom house. That maybe gives you an idea of the timing of that. We haven't had custom houses. We've had customs, but we haven't had custom houses for a long time. To his amazement, she laughed and said, "Wonderful. Now you can write your book." "Yes," he said, "and what shall we live on while I am writing it?" To his amazement, she pulled open a drawer and took out a substantial amount of money. "Where on earth did you get that?" he said. And she said these words that my wife has never said to me. She said, "I have always known you were a man of genius. I saved this from the household money you've given me. Here is enough to last us for 1 whole year." Oh, that's a good wife. Very inspiring and a little, daunting. He wrote a masterpiece. Many of us in this room, and I see I have contemporaries because I was one of them, were required to read this in our sophomore or junior year in high school. One more clue in this test. Demi Moore played the lead role about 10 years ago. And it was? Correct! The Scarlet Letter. Then the author was? Don't be so quiet. You can say it. Even the minister knows this one. Nathaniel Hawthorne, yes. And his wife's name was? Mrs. Hawthorne, yeah. Well, in case you ever get to Jeopardy, it was Sophie, but we'll give you half credit for Mrs. Hawthorne. So, all right. So now we have love, we have inspiration, and then we have the third one of the 12 powers, starting with the letter F. It is? That was awfully quiet. It was what? Faith. Okay. Faith. I started, and I saw there's a gentleman here in your row 1, which is actually row 2, which is true about every Unity church. I saw his hat. He came in and says he was in Vietnam, and I was in Vietnam. Not actually. I was supporting Vietnam. My tough duty was in Hawaii. I almost apologize for that. Yes, but I was at a headquarters, and that's where it was. So Hickam Air Force Base, Pacific Air Forces. But the good news about that was that's where I learned about Unity. That's my first Unity church, was Unity Church of Hawaii, literally on the slopes of Diamond Head. The address is 3608 Diamond Head Circle. So that's where I began. And one of the members of that church was a lovely woman. Her name is Polly Gladding. And Polly was a poet, and I have done some poetry as well, so I appreciate poets. And she wrote this wonderful couplet, and since it is a couplet, it's really easy to remember, and it scans and faith sees it finished before it's begun, savors the prize before it's been won. Faith sees it finished before it's begun, savors the prize before it's been won. Isn't that perfect? That's wonderful. We did correspondence school way back then in the Dark Ages, and that was one of the things I put in my lesson on faith was Polly's her poem. So, my responsibility during the Vietnam experience was to help keep track of the prisoners, the pilots who had been shot down, Air Force, Navy, Army, Marine pilots that had been shot down. And one of them and we'll just say Lieutenant Jones, because I don't have his permission to tell a story with his name in it, but was 6 years in a North Vietnamese prison. And when we say prison, put that in quotes in your mind, because not as nice as our worst one. But when he came back after 6 years, he was invited by his minister to speak to the congregation, which I think was a wonderful idea. This is part of what he said. Faith is what got me through all of that, faith in my comrades all around me, who needed my faith as much as I needed theirs. Faith in our national purpose, faith in all of you here, and this is my favorite part, faith of all of you here, so now he's talking to the congregation. Faith in all of you here, knowing you would be taking care of my family. No contact with family for 6 years, no letters from home, nothing. But he knew that he had a church community, a spiritual community, that would be watching after his family for all that time. Faith in God, the basis for it all. In this moment now, my faith has been fulfilled. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So, faith. All right. We've gotten love, we've gotten inspiration, we've gotten faith. You're doing pretty well. Well, actually, quite well. You're up probably at the B level. We'll see if we can. So, also literature. Be ready. Also literature. Also, though, besides literature, musicians, be ready. This has been made into a really wonderful, one of my favorites. I've seen it 4 times. 4 times. A man who was I have to ask what the E stands for. It's one of the 12 powers. It also has another name that goes with it. It would be, the E might be enthusiasm. Whoever said energy, you just flunked 12 powers. Enthusiasm. What did Charles Fillmore say in his 94th year? I fairly sizzle with zeal and enthusiasm as I spring forth with a mighty faith to do all those things that ought to be done by me today. 94. So how did you get up this morning, darlings? Where's the coffee? So enthusiasm. So there's this fellow in literature who's very enthusiastic, probably overly enthusiastic, because he goes about wearing a coat of mail way past the times of knights errant and all of that kind of thing. He has his charger is a donkey. Yes. It's being led by his friend. Oh, well, we'll get to his friend's name in a moment. Who might this be? Don Quixote, the Man of La Mancha. And of course, that's the title of the musical, which I love. And I threatened to sing earlier, to dream. That's my arpeggio. No, we're not going to do that. You're welcome. Anyway, so we have Don Quixote, and we have his faithful page or partner whose name was Sancho Panza, correct? They're doing really good. Sancho Panza. But there's this is a trick question. You need to be ready for this. There's a third character. Third character in the musical, and of course in the book as well. However, she has a name change in the book and in the musical, but I want to know what her original name was. Say it again. Aldonza is correct. Isn't that a lovely name? Wouldn't you like to be going through life going, hi, Aldonza. I think that's minor key, Aldonza. Yes. I said good music is really helpful.